My name's Vanessa Vallely and I'm CEO and founder of We Are the City, of which Gender Networks is part of. So as you know, we meet kind of every quarter, whether it's online or in person, and bring a variety of different things to you, obviously all designed to help you grow and nurture your networks. But these events are more like bonus series. So they are more around things that you might want to think about throughout the year, things that you might want to focus on. So obviously we do a huge amount of focus around International Women's Day, which takes place in March, but also over the last few years, pointing more towards International Men's Day and the marking of International Men's Day and the various different themes that can take on. So Daniele's joined us. Daniele has been a long-term supporter of Gender Networks and We Are Tech Women. He is, in my eyes, the de facto person that we need to talk to about this subject, being, the head of Token Man, and again, working in that men's space around gender allyship for a number of years. So we're going to flip that narrative a little bit on its head, and I'm going to hand over to Daniele to talk you through some ideas that you may have, that he has, around how you can mark International Men's Day. So Daniele, I don't know if you want to do a Q&A at the end, or people are welcome to put stuff in the chat. How do you want to play it?
I will. I'll be interactive the whole way through, so I'll be getting people to put stuff in the chat. The more interactive you can be, the more we'll get out of this session. Excellent. And Vanessa, you said I've been a big supporter. You've been my biggest supporter, so thank you so much.
We go further together. So all of you guys, welcome to come on camera, stay off camera, but as Daniele said, you'll get out of this what you put in. So please feel free to interact. This session has been recorded for the Gender Networks members that couldn't attend today. So Daniele, I'm going to go off camera and hand it over to you, and enjoy this session, everyone.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. I think it's the first time I've done a We Are the City session on Teams, so bear with me. Teams is not my favorite platform, simply because I can't see any of you. So if for any reason when I start showing my slides you stop seeing your slides, please pop something into chat. Leona is here, she'll just let us know. So as I said, today is going to be interactive. This is your session, so do let me know if I need to slow down. There's anything you want to talk about, please put stuff into chat. So I'm not going to go into too much of a detail on who I am, but I am founder of Token Man Consulting. So Token Man Consulting is a IMD consultancy that specialises in engaging senior leaders and men with inclusion and diversity. About 50% of my work is inclusive leadership, working with senior leadership teams, and then 50% is working with heads of IMD to work out what their engaging men strategy is. And we're going to talk about that and why International Men's Day is important within that. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is pop into chat the one question you would like answered today. I would like you to pop into chat the one question you would like answered today. So they will be interactive. I'm hoping you will. You are a curious bunch from my experience. So I would love to see some of those questions you'd like answered today. We have chat. I think we also have a Q&A. Let's use the Q&A for the end. At the moment, if you could just focus on chat, that would be amazing. Actually, Q&A doesn't look like it's enabled, so we're just going to use chat today. How can we help colleagues realise the importance behind IMD? Thank you, Laura Rose. I think we're going to answer that one. Love to see a few more questions. Some ideas, fantastic. Inspiration, fantastic. That's what today's about. So thank you, Eve. Hopefully you will get that out of today. A couple more. How can we approach gender equality as more of a gender partnership? I love that question. It was, I'm trying to remember her name. Why am I'm getting Cheryl? I can't remember Cheryl's surname, but Cheryl, and I'll try and remember it before the end, but she wrote a fantastic post, I think on Monday, around the need for us to be better allies to everyone, which I thought was really, really inspiring. IMD can have very negative connotations. Every day is International Men's Day. How can we debunk this? That's the first thing we're going to be doing. So thank you, Vicky. I'm going to be asking that question first. How to explain how IMD fits into typical D&I network setups? Yep. first webinar on Teams. Yeah, we'll get there. It still works very well. So I'm going to come back to, I'm going to start sharing again, and I'm actually going to, thankfully one of you already flagged up what I would call that kind of elephant in the room. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. I'm sharing slides now. Hopefully you can see them. The elephant, but some say every day is International Men's Day. So I think I'd be a very rich man if I got £1 for every person that said that to me. What I'd like you to do firstly, I want to answer your own questions. So pop into chat why you think this statement could be misguided and or damaging. Why do you think this statement, I'm being kind saying could be, I think it is misguided and or damaging. So why do you think that might be the case? So again, I'm coming back out and I'm going into chat. Yeah, I'm trying to say right. Aracelli, the support inspire recruit framework was actually is Tokoman's framework. So Roxanne was just using the Tokoman framework. I run Masking into the Workplace with Roxanne. So one answer could be men are intersectional. Fantastic. I think that's why it's, you know, when I hear every day is Men's Day, the fact that a gay man is still a man, a black man is still a man, a black man with disabilities is still a man. I think it's very, I'd be very upset if I heard someone say that International Men's Day it is their day every day. Obviously, if you look at me, I recognise that if you type in the word privilege into Google Images, you get someone that looks like me. So I understand my privilege, but even then, I am gonna talk about why I think International Men's Day is relevant, even to someone like me. Gary, thank you. It stereotypes men who want to promote equality, 100%. So I'm going to come into that. Thank you for your answers. As I said, today's going to be very interactive. So coming back to, we're going to answer those two questions. The first one is exactly what was the first thing you said. Men are intersectional. So it's really interesting. I ran a session for, I think it's actually myself and Roxanne Hobbs. So Roxanne Hobbs spoke at your event last month. I couldn't make it, but Roxanne is my partner on Masking into the Workplace. I ran a session for her for the advertising industry for 80 women. And we asked those 80 women, it was a session on allyship, but we asked those 80 women to think about the challenges that men face in the workplace. There were some amazing answers, but what was interesting is when they heard the word men, all they considered was white straight men. I didn't even think about the intersectionality of men. The second one, we had Laura Bates speak at Masking into the Workplace last year. This is one of the slides. She did a fantastic talk. She really looked at understanding how one side of the coin, and the negative impact of women can often have a negative impact on men. So she talked about that hysterical stereotype of women being emotional, and on the other side of that, that kind of stoic, the need for men to be stoic, not to feel their feelings, and that leads to obviously a very high male suicide rate. The stats of male suicide in the UK are so worrying. Aligned to that is that that hostility that women sometimes face in male-dominated professions, and on the other side of that is men feeling they have a lack of emotional vulnerability or support, so are unable themselves to actually show any vulnerability within those male-dominated those kind of masculine cultures. On one hand, you have the maternity discrimination in the workplace, yet men will often have discrimination in the courtroom when it comes to actual custody as parents split up. And on one hand, you have the pressure to sacrifice career for family. On the other side, men feel the pressure to provide, and that feeling of the pressure to provide is real. I run something called the Brain Trust, and I can't tell you how many of those senior men feel that pressure to provide. In fact, I know one man who actually had a mental health breakdown, partly because he just felt he wasn't able to keep up with what he felt was expected. What was interesting when I asked him, did he speak to his wife, and what do you think she would have said to him? He himself said actually he didn't, and if he had, she probably would have given him the support that he needed. But it was just that pressure that society puts on him that actually led him to get to that position. And inclusion should be for everyone. So we need to make sure that we are putting in strategies that is including everyone, and we're showing it's for everyone. So, but if we sit here right now, and this isn't talked about enough, I can't understate this. There is an enormous challenge with engaging men. Why the inclusion diversity industry is not talking about more about this, I really don't know. It's not. It doesn't. There's so many D&I conferences that it doesn't seem to be on the agenda. But if you look at the masculinity of the workplace research we did last year, 48% of male employees said they felt they had to show active engagement in IMD despite it not being relevant to their career. I mean, I'm not sure what businesses they are in, but if you think IMD is not relevant to your career, I do worry about whether you're going to be a leader in 5 years' time. I do think there's going to be a shift change, and I do believe that some the men who aren't leaning in now will be left behind. The things people say research, both of these research, by the way, are on the Token Man website, so tokenman.org. So the things people say research, we found that the 44% was the average percentage on men people felt were truly active allies in the workplace, so less than the majority. So when the Ipsos data came out earlier this year, which said that 53% men believe we have gone so far in promoting women's equality that we discriminate against men, we weren't surprised, although obviously that is a very shocking figure. So let's put perspective on that. The majority of men in the UK now think they're being discriminated against when it comes down to equity, diversity and inclusion. Why is this? Why do we have to take this seriously? Because companies where men are actively involved in gender diversity, 96% report progress. Conversely, among companies where men are not involved, only 30% show progress. So it is so important to get your men engaged. This was the framework that was mentioned before. As I said, this was something I developed 6 months ago. So it's just really looking at understanding that if we're going to get men to feel that inclusion does include them, we can't just default to the recruiting. So what I see a lot of the time is I see people actually spending most of their time talking about male allyship. So if you speak to most men and they say, how are you engaged with inclusion, diversity and equity, they'll say around male allyship. It's all about male allyship. All I'm saying is that what we have to have is a much more balanced framework, which is about 33%, 33%, 33%, which is one, we need to support men in their everyday life. So that can be mental health or being a father. Inspire, provide men with the skills and tools to be a better manager and leader. So that's a lot of work that I do. So inclusive leadership work that I do with senior leadership teams. Not just men, senior leadership teams, is around empathy, culture intelligence and vulnerability. So vulnerability for me is the really magic source where you can make inclusion and diversity really work. And then you can start recruiting those men to become better allies and agents of change. And I'm not suggesting it has to be in that linear order. You're just going to have different men that will engage at different times. So some men you're going to have to do support. Hopefully you then take them through Inspire and then they'll be ready to recruit. You'll also have men in your organisation who are already leaning in, and I think it is important you do work around recruit. So let's look at the themes for International Men's Day. And if it's the first time you're doing something for International Men's Day, I 100% would recommend that you spend most of your time around International Men's Day on the support side. I definitely wouldn't jump straight to using it as an opportunity to actually recruit male allies. So really, I would focus on looking at what that support is and maybe a level of Inspire. So let's look at the themes for International Men's Day. So these are themes as per the UK site. So I think the UK site is a much better reference point than the US site. So I would definitely, if you want to find out more, engage more. The CEO was actually on one of our sessions 2 weeks ago. He's doing some amazing work. So please do look at that site. So there's 3 things that it says on the UK site: making a positive difference to the well-being and lives of men and boys, raising awareness and/or funds for charity supporting men and boys' well-being, and promoting a positive conversation about men, manhood, and masculinity. So these are the potential themes that we're recommended. You asked for inspiration, so I'm just going to give you some potential themes. I'm hoping I'm going to send this deck to Leona, so she has a copy, and hopefully she will send it to everyone that signed up to this. So you have this. So on the support side, I would say it's men's mental health, being a father provider in the workplace. I've seen a lot of activity of people supporting Movember and raising money for that charity, which I think is really important. And also male friendships and communities. I actually run something called a Take a Man panel series. We are actually doing something around friendship and communities in April next year. It's one of the things that men asked us the most they wanted support on. Inspire. There's 3 themes we have here: highlighting the intersectionality of men, being vulnerable in the workplace, and engaging with empathy. And if you're going to do recruit, then it needs to be how to be a better ally to inclusion and diversity. I know businesses that are doing the recruit bit, but only because they've marked International Men's Day in previous years, and often they'll also have another piece of activity that sits within support or inspire. So I'm going to come back to you. I did say it was interactive. I'd love you to learn from each other as well. So I'd love to get people to put into chat what they are potentially doing to mark International Men's Day. So I'd love to put in those that already got plans, what they are potentially doing. Then I'm going to talk about 5 things you could potentially do. And if you're not doing anything, even pop into chat things that you have seen that you know other people are doing that you thought was interesting. Yeah, Vicky, thank you. And I've also got a hand up. I'm just trying to see if I can see the hand up. I'm not sure whether we can get you to come on. Yeah, do we know? Can we get the hand up person to come on? Can we hear their voice? Okay, I'm going to see. So I don't know your name. 21J Jekyll. I'm going to see if Leona can get you in to ask your question. If not, just pop it into chat. Amazing. Organising an internal event with a keynote speaker, Elliot Ray. Fantastic. I love the work Elliot's doing. Both Elliot and Hanson Lee, I think, are doing fantastic work around engaging with fathers. Dedicated IMD newsletter focusing on men's health, and I love the fact it's the Women's Network. So fantastic. I'm seeing some stuff coming in, which is brilliant. So I'm going to give you 5 ideas, and then we're going to go into Q&A. So do pop any questions that are coming out for you in this session. I think we've got another 24 minutes, so I would love to hear some of your questions, but I'm going to now share some ideas of things that you can do. Do pop into chat if any really resonate with you as I'm talking through them. Just pop them into chat. Just put I love that idea. I love that idea of, because I obviously can't see it as I'm going on. So if you can say I love that idea that you just shared of, that would be brilliant, so I can see the reference. So 5 things you can do to mark International Men's Day. So the first one is to run your own International Men's Day panel. So that really is about getting some of your men within your business to talk about some of their challenges. I know someone that did one of the banks did one where people came in and talked about their mental health challenge, some of their challenges about being a father, some of the things they were actually doing. I think creating that kind of level of empathy on International Men's Day is really, really important. And if you do a panel, let's break some stereotypes. Give the men flowers. to say thank you for participating. It's something that I'm going to come back to as well. Second one is use the data to recognise the challenges your male staff are facing so they feel included, or simply ask the men in your team how they are feeling. So that could be as simple as going to your colleagues going, listen, it's International Men's Day. I'd love to hear how you're feeling, what are your challenges. You could also do a very simple Survey Monkey. You could also do a men's circle. So I have a lot of people that I can connect you with who do men's circles. I run something called a brave space. So we could talk about, I'm more than happy to run a brave space around people talking about some of the challenges they are facing. So sorry, the next one was run some targeted men's circles to allow men to share their feelings. I don't know whether you've read it, but if you haven't, I would recommend it. Bell Hooks' Will to Change is one of the best books in this space. She is really the first feminist that recognises the need to engage men by understanding men. And she talks a lot about the fact that men have become disconnected with their feelings. I actually ran a brave space for an organisation this morning, and the first thing we did is we got people to name their feeling, how they've been feeling this week. I use something called the feelings wheel. You can just look it up on Google. And they then got to talk to each other about those feelings. And it was just the power of that exercise is unbelievable. Every person comes back and goes, that was amazing. I never do that. I never really ever talk about my feelings. So use the data to challenge norms. So I did talk about the flowers. I have Caitlin Moran, this is her latest book. I don't know if you can see it, but What About Men? Her previous book actually had a chapter around engaging about men and the challenges men face, which I think inspired her to do this. She told a lovely story about a Twitter thread in which she asked men what they miss out on as a result of stereotypes. And someone wrote that they missed out on getting flowers. They never ever got flowers. And then someone told a story a week later that they actually was inspired by that comment and actually took their dad in their care home, 85 years old, some flowers. His dad just started crying. It was the first time in 85 years anyone had ever given him flowers, and it touched him to his core. Just an aside, the evening that I read that book, that Kenny Marmarilla Cruz, who's known as the Man Whisperer, came to dinner at my house, and it was that evening was the first time as a man I was ever given flowers. I mean, what a coincidence. The fifth one, we do run this, it's our 6th year. We are supported by We Are the City. We're so thankful of that. It's our 5th year of our Masculine into the Workplace event. Do join us and bring your men. I say that it is a partner only led event. If you might be interested to be a partner next year, please do contact me on LinkedIn. I might be able to open a couple of tickets, but you can get virtual tickets. So virtual tickets are open to everyone. So I will pop that into chat as I come out of this, and I'll make sure you get it as a follow-up. Here are some of our past speakers. We have some amazing speakers this year. And here are some of our partners, just to give you a context. We have some wonderful partners. It is a partner-led event. I cannot wait for the in-person experience on the 21st of November. Our average feedback score over 5 years is 9.0 out of 10. Quite incredible. I can't take credit for that. Roxanne does all the curation of the speakers. I just make sure it happens and host it on the day. I love this. Before I go to questions, I love this quote. It's the quote I use the most. And it's by Esther Perel, who said, "We've spent the past 50 years discussing what it means to be a woman. Women have examined their relationships, their identity, their sense of agency at home and at work. And now, maybe for the first time, we're at a moment where men could have the same opportunity to redefine themselves. But I worry that we aren't giving men or women the resources that we need to get there." I think someone said it in the brave space this morning. There's no point pouring out of a cup if it's empty. And often what we're asking men who aren't engaged, who don't have the tools, who don't have the skills, who don't understand the issues to become allies before they're ready to be allies. So it's really important that we put that groundwork in, which is the support and inspire. So we give people those tools that Esther's talking about to enable them to actually lean in a way that's meaningful and which can make real change. Active allyship and agents of change from men is the key to actually creating inclusive, equitable and diverse workplaces. But part of that is understanding the need to support, have empathy on the journey that men need to go on, and also inspiring them by actually giving them the tools and the training. So we're doing a lot of other work. So talk about engaging men. There is the Token Man panel series. These are all free. Everything I do, I wear two hats. Token Man Consulting, I drive change. I just get paid for it. Token Man, I drive change and I do it for free. So please do. There's a lot of free resources for you. So please do use those. I'm gonna go to Q&A before we do a checkout. We're not at the end yet, so I'm going to do a checkout at the end. I would love to have some questions from you. I really like the idea that, you know, I'm just seeing some of the comments that you actually engage the men. It's amazing. It's amazing how many International Men's Day events seem to be organised by women. And I've also seen how that can go really wrong in terms of pitching. I think it's really important that you not only get the input from the men, but actually I think IMD events should also have at least one man organising it. In the same way, I also think International Women's Day events should have more men organising it. So I'd love to have your questions. I've given ourselves 15 minutes for questions. So this is as rich. This will be as rich as you put into it. So please. No questions, given loads of inspiration marks the important. I have to drop off. Okay, really helpful, great. I will send you slides. I'm hoping we have some questions. And the question can also, doesn't have to just be on International Men's Day. It could also be around just the challenge of engaging men with inclusion and diversity, because let's be honest, it really is a challenge. Hi Mick, how are you? I'm so glad you're here, Mick. I'm not sure whether we can pull you in. Leona, can we pull people in? I can't, oh, I can do it. There you go. Mick, are you on? I've enabled your mic if you want to ask a question. Mick, are you there?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh,
perfect.
Great. Wonderful.
Great. I've got it. Thank you, Leona.
I had no chat, so I was completely silent. So, yeah, so within our organisation, we have this this gender equality network, which is heavily subscribed by women, but not so much on the male side. So we have a challenge that we need to try and get more men to sign up to our gender equality network, and they sometimes view it as a women-only network for some reason. Do you have any suggestions on how to garner more support? Yeah, other than attending your great events, which we're doing. Yeah.
which you're doing in spades, Mick. I can't even tell you how many people have signed up to the male allyship panel. So I hope they all come this time. So, firstly, so Mike, I think it's really important that with gender networks that you're able to create. For women, I would tend to call them safe spaces. And also I would actually, for men, would call them brave spaces. So I think you have to, if you're going to show that it really is for men, I think you need to really think about what activity you're doing that's specifically for people who identify as men. So I would actually do a male only space under the gender network. We did that for Shell recently. We actually ran a panel. And it was really well attended and really well received. And I think they were. I'll be honest, the client was extremely nervous about it, but he did have the support of the gender network, and generally the feedback was excellent, because I know in that particular session, one of the men specifically asked the question that I know he would not have been brave enough to do with women in the room. and that created a unbelievable discussion, and it allowed him to go on a journey, and it allowed him to be better equipped to speak to other men, because the question he was asking was very much aligned with what I think a lot of men are thinking. You know, I showed you that stat, which is 53%. You know, your companies won't buck the trend of that stat. You know, it might not be 53%, but it's probably going to be 40% of men think that inclusion, equity, and diversity actually is discriminating against them. And while we realise that that just isn't true and there's still a gap, we do have to listen to those voices and work out how we get them on a journey.
Thanks, Daniel. I think that's a really good suggestion. Having men only or men spaces, I think, could be a good way to go forward. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And now that I've worked out how to bring people in, do please put your hand up if you want to come on and ask a question. So thank you, Mick. So I've got another question. I'm going back into chat. So that's Samantha, that is a brilliant question on language. Language is so important, and it seems to be coming out much more. And I think the whole time about language. So, for example, if I'm doing a session that has men in it, I will not introduce myself as a feminist. I am a feminist, a very proud feminist, but I do know what reaction I had when I was ignorant 10 years ago to that phrase. And so language is so important, and bringing that language in, I think if you can do events that aren't necessarily labelled inclusion, equity, and diversity, I think that would help. I think actually just doing events where people can just get more involved, so just be, supporting you become a better father in the workplace, for example, I think works really well. I know Lloyd's Bank did a really interesting session around menopause for partners. So again, that was a really inclusive way of getting men involved and everyone else. But they had 180 people that went to that event. I think that I think that's a really high number. I think the key thing for me is to test your language and think about, okay, as a man, how are they gonna experience this language? And I think any communication that's going out to men, in the same way I would make the same suggestion for anything else in terms of something that goes to women, it needs to have men involved, either in the writing or actually checking the copy. So I think that's really, really important. Still got 10 minutes. I would love to have more questions. For once, I made sure the content was short and sweet because I thought you'd have loads of questions. Feel free to put your hand up if you're not shy. I'll bring you in and you can ask your question. Pleasure, Samantha. I am hoping we have more questions, otherwise we'll finish early and I'll give you more time for lunch. Anyone brave enough to raise their hand?
I think they're very quiet today, and that even means you've done an exceptional job of giving them lots of food for thought, or they're listening in the background. So I suggest we just give some time back. I don't know if I'm breaking up. I seem a little bit shaky my end, but Daniele, thank you so much. There was so much good stuff in there around how we need to think of it about things, how we need to frame things, and and some ideas. So I think it's been an absolutely really valuable session, and I think we can see that coming in the comments anyway. So a huge thank you to you, to all of our Gender Networks members, whether you're online or whether you're watching this separately. Do check out Daniele, do check out the work of Token Man. They do research every single year, they have their own conferences that go on as well, and they really are the place to go when it comes to this topic. So feel free to engage. If you can't get to him for whatever reason, come talk to me or talk to Leona and we'll connect you. But thank you so much, Daniele, for joining us.
Thank you,
and thank you for my team as well. So have a good rest of the week all. Thanks again.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. We'll send you links. Bye.